Yeah, I think that, oh yeah, that's good. So I'm going to read the first half of a 21-page poem that I just finished. It's on similar themes to what Margaret just said. It's called Hope Speaks of Life on Earth. To Chris, says Haris. I'm lost in a gray cloud and in green leaves. It's early June now in our river valley. To west and east, the forests dream an evergreen continuation on ancient hillsides. Here below, between the ridges, deciduous rebirth is bursting forth with joyous energy, while heavy clouds hang low and wet above the valley floor. We hear them cry, wife Hope and I, the crows, the pair of them arriving in our yard again as every morning, male and female, mates for life like us. Errato loves our yard, a sacred grove of ash and alder trees. I planted alders years ago, and ash trees volunteered. The muse now visits often, blithely lingering and bringing inspiration generously while she's here. The graces visit here as well. Harites, the vegetation goddesses in lush fecundity. Aglaea's splendor, Thalia's abundance, and Euphrosyne's good mood. Truth, beauty, goodness, the sweet graces show us these to guide our life and death, our science and our art. We're going out to walk the meadow trail now, Hope and I. We'll only stop 100 times to watch what's there and listen where the creek is singing over shallow falls. Hope notes that our mobility descends from the antique motility of protists, undulapods wriggling in the ancient seas. And off we go, two animals to saunter on dry land. Find one point, relax completely, wade underside, extend key. I feel the kami here, a finite concentration of the infinite divinity that flows throughout the universe. In both plurality and singularity, divinity pervades our everywhere, our always. I feel the puzzling presence that's an absence, everywhere and nowhere. Subtle quantum nothingness that Plato wisely called the chora, wherein on and genesis respectively exist and happen. Nature is alive with genius, full of the original divinity. We walk with death through nature's living moment. Our benign alignment with the flow of ki through cosmos is the natural. Involvement by us humans doesn't make a happening unnatural, and non-involvement by us humans doesn't make it natural. Our breath collects, projects, directs the ki the cosmos makes available. We flow conjoined to canny cosmic life force, finely unified with universal energy, divinely merged with ever-present spirit. If one plants oneself indomitably on the hara, all the world will bend around and blend with one. We unperturbed, confronting the contingencies as other animals and celebrating sacredness in every moment. Loafing and inviting kami to our side, we now set off to stroll the trail at ease in nature. Do you ever get the feeling our eternal home is all around us all the time? Find one point. Relax completely. Wade underside. Extend ki. The city park is just across the street from us, and we descend the lengthy driveway, past the white oak tree, and cross to where the meadow trail begins. As said before, we're here in June, the happy month of camas harvesting in Kalapuyan times. The flowers blossom blue around us in the thigh-high grass. They're sprinkled like wild love across the meadow. 15,000 Kalapuyans lived here in the 18th century. 130 Kalapuyans were alive in 1910. It's hard to see the blossoms and not think of them, the vanished ones. The shamans gathered camas first each year, enough so every villager could have a bite. They offered reverence to the cosmic spirit that allowed the camas to grow back each spring. The bulbs were food. You took your digging stick with antler handle and you dug a pile of luscious camas bulbs to bake. For 7,000 years and more they did this. Now the camas blooms seem dreams of ancient times. I feel the gladness of the ghosts that glide among the wild blue flowers now. The boldness of the bloom unfolding here reminds us that the spirit of the valley never dies. Elusive, ever vague, it now returns, surrounds us with its lavish beauty. Hope lifts up a rock and finds a salamander. Here's an apex predator, she comments. Tiny, lungless, it consumes a pile of fly and beetle larvae, ants, small snails, mites, spiders, earthworms, centipedes, and springtails every day. It hunts invertebrate leaf shredders, thus reduces the release of carbon to the atmosphere. The salamanders thrive here. Garter snakes here slither through the tall wild grass. Gophers, moles, and voles dig tunnels here. The epiphytes are thriving here. The saprophytes are everywhere in this diverse environment. The symbionts and decomposers, fungi, lichens, moss, and liverwort establish residence on fallen trees, on branches overhead. The hyalophagic ants inhabit and consume the fallen limbs and branches. Huckleberry and salal abound. The turkey vultures circle high above, the patient dinosaurs endowing empty air with ancient grace. The dragonflies and hummingbirds around us flit and hover. Iridescent beetles take flight quickly. Pileated woodpeckers adorn the tree trunks, seeking juicy insects in the bark. The black-tailed deer survive here in the ample parkland of our sprawling suburb. The wild turkeys wander freely here. The raucous crows and blue jays flourish. Find one point. Relax completely. Wait underside. Extend key. Inebriates of summer air are we. We simplify, recover innocence, and share the demi-wildness of this semi-solitude. We hear the creek still flowing through the shadows, singing in the cottonwoods with silver song. The spirit of the place becomes our mind, our heart, our hara, and unconsciousness informs our intuition. I exclaim, "O biosphere, make me thy lyre, just as the forest is. O savage spirit, be thou me." Hope smiles and says, "We lead our lives a quiet inspiration." Then we meet the Lorax strolling past who says, "I speak for trees," and waves and grins. Hope notes, beside the woods we met a holy fool, a motley gent, a fellow very wise. We reach the creek and find a boulder by a little bridge. The creek stands still, the bridge streams over. In the shade, we make the coolness our abode. We sit on stone, completely calm. The chaos in the brain produces novelty and flexibility, which paradoxically lets neural networks make more sense of self and cosmos. Our peripatetic dialogue begins, meanders like the trail in Zoic Creek. Our stationary discourse winds. Some things we needn't say, have talked about before. Nonlinearity and chaos, sensitivity to first conditions, unpredictability by any real observer, the logistic bifurcations and discrete equations, strange attractors governing the weather, irreducibly entangled quantum states, superfluidity and superconductivity, the radically holistic macro states, the marvelous life cycle of the slime mold, the complexity of order and disorder, breaking symmetry, self-similarity. These thoughts we share, dear Hope and I. In 50 million years, what trace of us, our sitting here, our talking of it all, will still remain? Find one point, relax completely, wait underside, extend key. So that goes on in a long dialogue for another 10 pages, which I'd love to read, but I don't have that much time. So the next poem is from a trip to New York recently to visit my daughter, whose apartment in the West Village, or East Village, blew up while we were there. And this is a poem that came out of it. The Key of Weeds. I love weeds. Why we think we need to spray extremely toxic substances all over everywhere to kill the hardy, self-reliant plants we've arbitrarily named weeds, I'll never know. Weeds have the vital, cosmic energy of all those splendid, churning paintings by Van Gogh from 1889. The ones we saw last week in New York City at the Met with daughter Susan and her husband Chris. The Thursday their apartment in the Village blew up, burned, collapsed in utter toxic ruin. Just so very glad we all were viewing the divine wheat field with cypresses and weeds. My precious Suze, her Chris, my hope, and I love weeds. And this is a very short poem that is set in the same spot as the 21-page poem that I read half of. It's called I Key This Afternoon. The buttercups and camas bloomed along the trail today. The native hawthorn and wild roses blossomed. Bright grass grew tall. Hearts opened, shone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Howard and Margaret. Thank you for coming and talking to us about sustainability. I want to remind you all about the raffle. There's a donation raffle going on over here. Any donation will get you entered for great prizes, and you'll be helping a wonderful local cause, the OSLP Arts and Culture Program. We're going to have multiple drawings at the end of each day, and you don't have to be present to win. You just have to fill in the entry form. So any donation over there, the prize list is over there. You can look at some of the prizes you can win, and you're helping a good cause.